was meant to serve as a decoder ring for all that bootstrap bullshit they keep trying to sell us. That's right. Whenever you hear some well-paid commentator telling folks that the answer to all their problems is just to work harder, what they really saying is, I don't care about your circumstances. Your circumstances don't matter to me. You don't matter to me. Whenever you hear some rich asshole from a think tank go on and on about the virtues of the free market while ignoring those ill-affected by any semblance of a free market, what they're really saying is, as long as I ain't gotta see them, as long as I ain't gotta be them, fuck them. And I'm sorry if that sounds crass, but that's about as accurate a translation as I can give. And this song is about that unfortunate translation. So the next time you turn on your radio or your television or go on the internet and you hear some fool say, let the market sort it out, well then you'll know what it is they really saying. You'll know what it is they really saying.
I do not feel that I was born corrupted, as I do not believe in original sin. However, I have been corrupted by life, by circumstance, and by my own foolishness. These things trouble me the most. I want to be pure, but I fall so short. Corrosion, rust, death, and failure haunt my every breath and step, and yet I live and write while corrosion bites. It shows there's some strength in me. Possibly, maybe, decidedly, I will persist. The end.
Get yourself together before it's too late. Good evening, everybody. It's Divided We Stand. It's also Saturday night, November the 27th, 2021, at 9:06 p.m. As if it really mattered anyway. We're all going down, as I've said. So, before I begin, I want to say that I appreciate our new subscribers. We have 2 more subscribers, and now we're at 91. Wowzers. So it's a real nice thing to have more people on board. And please remember that we would love for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It doesn't cost you anything. And we also would like you to become a member of the Divided We Stand Facebook group page. The only problem is you have to make sure that you agree to the rules. If you don't agree to the rules, then we can't take you. And David and I are very strict about that. A lot of times we'll see people trying to join our group, but they just don't seem to give a response to our 5 basic rules. So they can't join. So in any case, yeah. So tonight I decided to wear my smoking jacket. I mean, I'm going to smoke, albeit a fake cigarette. We want the mood just right. So, yeah, wow, more subs. Hey, look, Veg, 2 subs for David and I are, you know, it's like getting 200. So, yeah, it's a big thing. We're just simple people here. So, and I'm going to get to David in a second. But before I do, you know, in fact, I'll tell you what, let's go to Dave now, and then we'll deal with some of the other issues that I'd like to talk about. But yeah, geez, I'm getting some type of feedback here, and I'm not liking it very much. I don't know what the deal is. It seems like a bad connection. I don't know if anybody can hear that. All right, that might sound better. And then I'll go to Dave. All right, let me go to both of us. And Dave, can you hear me well?
Listen, man. Yeah, listen, why am I doing this show if we can't be friends? I thought we were friends. Why?
Oh, that's a good question.
Sign up there?
And that's going to be...
Yeah, I mean, wait, whoa, hold on a second here. Listen, I think that would even be a great... I'm going to ask you a question. Why can't we be friends? And somehow that strikes me. That'd be a great name, title for a song, right? I can't remember if there is such a song, but if there is, I think it might be from a band called Raw or War or something like that. But anyway, why can't we be friends, Brian? What's up with that?
Well, you and I can be friends, and
oh, okay.
all
I
that's
was
out
worried.
there can be friends.
No, I didn't know what the hell you were talking about.
But I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about them, and that's a big problem. So,
who be these them you be talking about?
Yeah, well, these are, you know, the people who support the other side, and at one time they were our friends.
What are you talking about?
Oh, the authoritarians, the fascists.
Oh, yeah, those dudes. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
that.
those dudes.
And dudesses too. They're not all dudes.
And you personally have lost a lot of friends from your Facebook friends list.
Well, you know, yeah, it's an interesting concept. Actually, you know, normally friends, family, Romans, whoever's assembled tonight, Vladimir Putin, whoever's listening. Normally, you know, I'm broadcasting live from the 10th floor of Crystal Plaza Apartments, from my little small tiny studio there. But Brian, I'm actually about sugar, not even probably 8 miles from you tonight, maybe 9. I snuck into Jersey, and so I'm you know, kind of between those two cities that are next to my old city, your current city, Bridgeton. So I'm here at cousin Linda's house, and I'm trying some new things. So this is not.
You're trying some nude things?
What?
You said you're trying some nude things? What?
Listen, would you open your ears? Okay. I didn't say nude. I didn't say lewd. I said some new. That would be
okay.
N-E-W, not the K-N-U that you have ridden before. It is an N-E-W. And we're going really, really, really minimalized tonight. But I'll tell the people kind of a funny story about how this works. So, you know, Judy and I packed up. I'm actually here doing I don't know what it is. Anyway, I'm working with a band and doing some things. Maybe even a book will come out of it. But anyway, you know, I packed my stuff. I knew we had the show Saturday. I knew I could do it. And somehow, as is wont to happen when you least have it, I started to unpack today, and I found out the following. I didn't bring a microphone. I didn't bring headphones. And doing it here, my cord, which you know how much power this will drain, I couldn't reach it. So at 7-ish, I ran to Rite Aid and picked up some very expensive 1999 headphones and an extension cord. And so the only thing that I'm really left doing now is running through. I don't have a camera, so I'm using my Mac, portable Mac's camera, and its microphone.
Or is that
and we'll
a MacBook Pro by any chance?
No, I have that at home. This is the old Mac Air, not that old Mac Air. So it works. I guess you can hear me, right?
Right.
You can see me.
Good.
So that's kind of good, I guess. But you were saying I lost a lot of friends. Let's pick up there. Right. So for anybody who doesn't live in Bridgeton, and that would be almost everybody, every one of our listeners, except once in a while we get Emily or Mantra or Gary. So a few years ago, I don't know how many, they established an Amish market. South Jersey is not Amish country, but we do neighbor, Pennsylvania, which does have Lancaster, and the Pennsylvania Dutch and all that kind of thing. And I was always threatening to go there simply because in 2016, it became Cumberland County's Trump headquarters, not officially, but unofficially. And people go there all day, and they hang out. And I kept telling my son Michael and Jude, I'm going to go there and talk to you can't do that, you can't do that. Well, riding by, we had two options. I could have stopped at your house and talked to you and Ronnie, but I convinced Judy to pull into the Amish market, and I went inside. And I was all prepared, to see people who've dropped me or I've dropped them, and we just discussed nicely why they are a-holes. But you know what? It was funny. I only knew, first of all, I thought I'd know more people. I only knew 4, and all of them were Democrats. So I don't know if the Democrats have taken over that, but I got to go back and scout that out. But then seriously, on Facebook, I don't know the numbers, Brian, but it really was a big decision for me. It might not be for everyone. I always believed in 2 things, which I no longer believe in, because you have to have the ability to change. One was that just about anybody who has any kind of mental acumen at all or common sense can be reasoned with. You don't have to agree or disagree, over points and lose friendships and do that. You can disagree or agree over points and keep friendships. And of course that. And the other thing was, which was the hardest thing for me really in this whole thing to do, was I kind of, again, whether it was ego or whatever, I didn't want to drop people. Just not, maybe a shot I could get to them. Not really. I also want to monitor them. You know how people say, Brian, I watch Fox News, or I hear that all the time, just to check in from time to time, or OAN. Well, nobody watch, or Newsmax. And right now, I think that you don't need to do that. They're bad. They're the bad guys. They're evil. And that's the end of it. But it's surprisingly hard for me to just drop everybody. And I did keep one who is to me the consummate, if there were such a thing, the consummate, compassionate, intelligent Trumper. As weird as that sounds, you don't have to think of him. But he takes good care of his mom. He quit his job so he could take care of his mom. That's the compassionate part. We still have some really interesting discussions, but I do keep him to monitor what's going on in Trump world when I'm not on the dark web or actually in Trump sites talking to there. So, did I lose anything that was really of value to me? No. But my numbers dwindled. In a numbers world, I don't think it's 100, Brian, but it was probably pretty close.
All right, Dave, I'm going to take us a little bit of actually the same place. I want to take us to the same place, and I want to relate it to something that I had been reading just starting today. I ordered this book. A lot of you probably are familiar with the title, The Twilight of Democracy. This is Anne Applebaum's book from a few years back. And I'd like to read a passage, if I may. I'm not one to usually do something like this, but I think that it applies to what Dave was talking about. So that's really kind of important. So, this is probably in the first 12 pages. Anne Applebaum is talking about a house party she had in Poland. Her husband is Polish. And she related it to a Polish writer named Michael Sebastian in I guess it was 1937. He wrote from 35 to 44. But let's just listen for, probably a minute or so, 2 minutes at the most, and I think you'll know where I'm coming from. So if I may, here we go. Like me, Sebastian was Jewish, though not religious. Like me, most of his friends are on the political right. In the journal, he described how, one by one, they were drawn to fascist ideology, like a flock of moths to an inescapable flame. He recounted the arrogance and confidence his friends acquired as they moved away from identifying themselves as Europeans, admirers of Proust, travelers to Paris, and instead began to call themselves blood-and-soil Romanians. He listened as they veered into conspiratorial thinking and became casually cruel. People he had known for years insulted him to his face and then acted as if nothing had happened. Is friendship possible, he said, or he wondered in 1937. With people who have in common a whole series of alien ideas and feelings, so alien that I only have to walk in the door and they suddenly fall silent in shame and embarrassment. In an autobiographical novel he wrote at the same time, the narrator offers friendship to an old acquaintance from whom he is now divided by politics. "No, you're wrong," comes the response. "The pair of us can't be friends, now or ever. Don't you get the smell of the land off me?" And she says, after this story, today is not 1937. Nevertheless, a parallel transformation is taking place in my own time, both among the thinkers, writers, journalists, and political activists in Poland, a country where I have lived for 3 decades. So I'm going to stop right there, Dave, and go back to our screen. Now, you're going to hear a little bit of a rumble in the back. Dave, I do think that's coming from yours.
There's not a whole hell of a lot I can do.
I know there's nothing. There's nothing you can do, but don't worry. It's not horrible.
Well, I don't hear it, and so I don't even care.
Well, if you listen for a second, it's off, and that's on. But don't worry. It may not even be you, but it may be something with the system. I don't know. But it's not bad.
Okay. A couple things. First of all, how long have we known each other? A long time, right? I didn't even know you could read English. I knew you could read Russian.
Well, I didn't read that well, but that was a small book. So, but 2000,
no.
2000.
I think there's a couple. I mean, there's obviously a point we want to discuss tonight because, I think it raises a very valid point. And I don't want to make light of a serious subject. And friendship is a serious subject. But something that made me think. You notice the year 1937, right?
Right.
And what's going on in 37? Well, the world is getting ready to explode in 39, correct?
Correct.
And, things don't come out of a vacuum. And, of course, the comparisons to Hitler, it's sort of like, the way I look at it, when you compare Trump to Hitler, there's been a lot of comparisons. I myself have done it. There's an automatic problem with that. It's just like most people, when they talk about God, they see, this white dude with a beard, and, it's just hard to get that out of your head. And when you talk about Hitler, you see and it's just so evil. But as I pointed out before, in 1937, Hitler wasn't Hitler yet, right? I mean, he was on the way. Right?
He was on the way. He certainly was.
And certainly Hitler, Hitler was not alone. All right. Yes, he was the dude. Yes, he's the one we blame. Yes, he was the one who, took enough drugs. He went wacko at the end, thank God. But, he had a whole host of people surrounding him as Germany moved to what we now think was the ultimate horror of the 20th century. Well, compared to America, authoritarianism and fascism really are the same. I mean, not the same each other, but wherever they break out, right? But the things that interest me about that is some of the parallels of the way we are here. First of all, you vilify and demonize the people. Certainly Trump and the Republican Party has done that. You try to divide groups up. You begin to make the people so concerned that they want to give up their freedom because they're so scared of someone else, taking it from them. You've got the economic uncertainty, which certainly we have now, in terms of this. And all of a sudden, these things are, I'm sure there were Germans who just said, look, it can't happen here. We have Americans saying that. But it did happen in Germany, and it doesn't mean it can't happen here. Is it a little bit tougher? Yes, but I'm going to say why I think it may be easier in one sense. The Germans, as we've said before, Brian, and I believe this to be true, in the 30s, they were the apex or the apogee or the top of being able to use this relatively new, media device called the talking pictures. And the best directors, I think, at the time were not in America. They were in Germany, and Adolf Hitler gave them a choice. You can either do kind of our bidding and be with us and be part of this push, or we can kill you. And of course, a lot of times, and we've heard this, if you're in a creative field and somebody offers you a chance to create, your morals may get a little skewered because you're really saying, well, I'm just creating this. And today we have this, the social media of Twitter and Facebook, and we all know that affected the elections, right? And at the same time, we have something passing as news, Fox News. We have something, but of course, Fox News didn't go far enough. So then we get OAN, and then some people felt OAN didn't go far enough, and now we have Newsmax. And if history serves us any kind of guide, we'll probably get a couple more spin-offs, right? Not necessarily spin-offs or new creations, maybe spin-offs. And so suddenly you're being bombed and barraged and with these messages. Now, I'm going to end with this thought of why we can't be friends, why we can't discuss. There's many ways, right? So certainly in Nazi Germany, if you were Jewish, there's no sense in talking to you, right? Because you're them, right? And of course, Germans believe that. Well, today, I think it also is a little worse in America, in this sense. Even the Germans and the Jews kind of looked at the world with an understanding of reality. I think they kind of understood a wall was a wall, right? Certainly. Barbed wire was barbed wire. You might argue over who would be inside or is it necessary. And today, when you talk to Republicans, there is no acknowledgement of reality as I see it and as I believe it to be. And I think we could talk politics all day, both sides. We could talk conditions, but if I'm looking out a window now, and if the person I'm talking to believes that's a door, we're just out of luck. And really, that's where I think we are in America right now. What is it? And it's not even I say potato, you say potato. It's like I say potato and you say asparagus, or I say potato and you say dining room chair, right? So how do you combat that? And I don't know if it's combating. Just how do you, right where we are now. So Brian, what was your take on what you read?
Well, what I'm saying is, I think I'm saying two things. Yes, there is this level of which I'm speaking, in which you cannot be sociable and communicate with people like you have in the past. That means all of us, the collective you. Right. But I'm also saying that you see the parallels, because you see this, happening here. That it happened then, and we see the inescapable movement toward that. Now, others would say it isn't inescapable, but I think it's just kind of like Pollyanna thinking to think it's not going to lead this way. I started saying fairly early this was going to be a coup back in 2016. And then you and I both were pushing this idea, definitely like a year or two later. And even then, some people saying, no, this couldn't happen. And then all of a sudden, I remember posting something, and it wasn't too hard to guess this was going to happen. But I said, the worst is the worst yet to come after the election. And it was to come. And that, of course, was January 6th. Would he go that low? And he did go that low. So what I'm saying is, there's this inexorable movement toward fascism. And, where this thing lands, I don't know. But I think if we see what's happened with the Supreme Court, if we look at what happens with Kyle Rittenhouse, and this continual barrage of facts as they know it being thrown out there, and then above that, you've got at the state level, even at the local levels, they're controlling every bit of this country, even though, as you say, Dave, we still have some checks and balances there. But
Well,
wait, I'm trying to take myself out of both 1937 and 2021 and looking down as somebody who's outside of the universe and looking down into this something from the Twilight Zone and saying, this is very, if this were the Twilight Zone, you'd have to say, yeah, we're headed this way.
well, speaking of Twilight Zone, which just happens to be one of my two favorite of its type in the 60s. I go back and forth whether I like Outer Limits better or the Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone was much better written. No question about that. Some of the best writing in the history of television was done through Rod Serling and some of the people he assembled around him to do that. I was just thinking now of a thought that I haven't had before, so I want to try it out on you and anybody listening. Okay, 1937 and 2015. Okay, it separated some time, but I'm going to suggest to you that they were both in the same world, which I call the modern world, right? Now, some people think the modern world started maybe with World War I, but definitely by between that period and by the time we hit World War II, the modern age is in. And so I think I fear more what could happen between the parallels of Germany, Italy, not so much Japan because the emperor has a difference, but let's use Germany and Italy and the fascism and the authoritarianism we find there with America than I do with others, because actually, Brian, and be interested in your thought, my thought is we are much closer to 1937, not just by years, than we are with the 18th century when our country was founded and all these precepts were put in. So, I don't know. I think that gives me more cause for concern. If it was ancient Sparta we were comparing about, right? Or we're talking about the Ottoman Empire, or we're talking about, I don't know, wherever. I say, come on, cut me a break here. But I think, we're talking about a very tight parallel. Seriously, yes, people have changed, but, if you look at the ages, we're in that industrial age and you're moving toward, in 1937, you're in the industrial age, but you're moving toward this technical informational age. In 2015, 2016, you've moved out of the industrial age, which brings its own set of problems, and completely into this technical information age. So certainly to say something that happened in 1937 cannot happen in 2015, I think has far less merit than saying something that happened in 1776, cannot happen, or the converse. Something that happened in 1776 will assure that in 2021 that flow will continue. The other point I want to make, because it's one I make every show, and I just think it's so important for people to understand, especially you chose the name. I think it's a brilliant name that you chose, Divided We Stand. And as I've been doing continually more and more and more research to try to fill in the gaps of my knowledge of American history, what I find is, and I submit this, there is not a single time when America was united, unless as we've asked before, unless they came together. If you want to say they came together for World War II, I may concede that. But even there, you had the isolationists before, you had the pacifists, of course I side with. So I don't know, bro. How the hell do we find out, or how the hell do people walk around thinking we're united? I don't see.
Well, maybe it's not a question of them thinking that we're united. It's just that it seems perhaps they've been lulled into this idea that it won't get that bad simply because for the last whatever, they and the generations before them have never gotten to the point where, that we're going to hit that kind of thing.
Well,
and you and I
yes.
both know that that's, again, that's Pollyanna thinking.
I think, another thing which wasn't there in 1937, what is thrown in the mix now, is of course nuclear destruction. But I mean, it's so close, it's coming, right?
Right.
And so, and I think the danger now with any fascist or authoritarian or divisive movement is you have some really easy weapons that can not only win you the cause, but can end the world as we know it and kill everybody in it, or the majority in it. So what do we have? We have biological weapons. We have governments failing to act on the environment. Tell me how that's going to work out. I know I'm preaching, or singing to the choir, preaching to the choir, however you want to describe it, to you and most of our listeners. But a lot of people don't understand. Well, certainly, I'm not saying the Democrats are the God savers of this, but they're certainly better than Trump and the Republicans. But I don't even know that the Democrats are enough to save this. And I'm sure we'll talk at some point, because everything is political. I believe it is. We'll talk a little bit about this new variant, and I'll share some of my non-scientific concerns about why I think this is so disconcerting, this particular variant, of what I've seen of it. I'm not a scientist, I haven't, but what I do read about it, and usually I don't. Delta, okay, it's there, and you kind of funnel it through. So yeah, I think this idea is, I believe, that we're certainly on the road that can lead us very quickly to
authoritarianism.
Yeah. Well, in some sense, we're already there. Now, what was interesting, and I have done that, I have said in the past, we do have some bulwarks, supposedly, to keep us from there, but we're so, they are so fragile. Now, you mentioned the court. There's no way today. Anybody says the Supreme Court isn't political, they're naive at best and stupid at worst. So you have a Republican court. And how are they going to decide? Mostly in Republican ways, especially now, because, as I've said, and I will maintain all along, John Roberts doesn't, it's not that he's not conservative, he doesn't want to be the guy who does the equivalent of the Dred Scott decision, right? And it becomes the John Roberts court that ruled this, that led to that.
Right, he doesn't want that.
On that, three liberals on that side. I think, again, what we're going to find is, I'm pretty good in math, not great, but it's still 5-4. So in every issue, you go in thinking 6-3, you might get it to 5-4. And we see some issues coming up that will give you more indication of that. One will be, the ruling on guns that will be coming up. Another ruling is on separation of church and state that will be coming in the next term, and some other things. So we really will begin to see. So right now, I said the military, right? And the military held. I think it will hold, but you know what? I'm not real confident in saying I think it will hold. Okay.
Yeah. What happens if it does fractionalize or does go the other way? Don't forget, Michael Flynn's brother is still in the military.
Brian, I'm acknowledging that fact.
We're hoping that somehow Flynn's brother will be something akin to John Wilkes Booth and John Wilkes Booth's brother, who was on the other side.
And I will be talking at length at the Michael Flynn tonight. Not at length, but at some point.
Yeah, in fact, that's what I did want to show you, a 40-second clip of this son of a bitch.
Just give me a second to finish this thought. So, that's why, I think maybe the frustrating thing, if you see some of that picture, is, frustrating if you don't want authoritarianism, frustrating if you don't want fascism. But is what exactly do you do? What exactly do you do to stop it, right? I think one of the bravest acts I've seen in my lifetime was the young Chinese man who stood in front of the tanks in Tiananmen Square.
Right.
He walked away from that, luckily. All right. But some of the people protesting in Charlottesville didn't walk away from that. And tonight, remind me if I forget, I just want to talk a little bit about cars as a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
We're always, suddenly they become, and some people are really looking into that. and why is that, and how come that is, and whatever. So again, cause for concern, yes. Cause for alarm, yes. And concern, alarm, and even if you want to say fear, okay, in there, all that is paralyzing, and the best way to get out of that paralysis is to do something. The question is, what exactly is it that you do? All right. And right now, I mean, I don't know.
Or maybe the question is, at what length do you go? Because
go to any-
maybe if you
you go-
cannot do this or this or this or this or that,
okay.
then you have to jump.
Well, I agree, and not everybody has the capability or the ability or the it's not a gut
The seminal
thing.
strength to
And
do it.
I mean, some of that, and I'll tell you what it really is. That word that's been thrown around so long. Remember in education a few years, grit makes you say stay the course. That's really what it is, and it's not something you develop overnight, and it's not easy. For me, again, I can only speak for myself. I come from a long line. First of all, I come from a long line of males in my family do not do well with authority. I mean, at least as far back as my great-grandfather that I know. So my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father, me, and my son, and now it looks like it's going to be my granddaughter, and it may be our grandson. Now, when I say we don't do well with authority, I don't mean but we kind of go in looking to see, is this authority good? I mean, obviously, authority in and of itself is not bad, right? It's how the authority is used. So for me, it's almost natural. The weirdest thing for me, and I'm starting to move off of that, is I've never really fought for government in my life. Okay, what I mean by that is not that I was against it. I was always the people against government. And then with Trump, I had to transition a little bit where it was, let's get rid of Trump and it's the other side. Now I don't think I sacrificed my convictions. I don't think. Somebody else would say, yes, you did. You sold your soul, fine. But I got a win out of it. As we said before in the show, I think it bears repeating. 2016, I was a Bernie person. And I still admire, and I think right now in the Senate, he is the most admirable person in the Senate. That's my belief. If he could bring his vision to America, it would be a tremendous vision. Better than Joe Biden's, and certainly better than Donald Trump, whose vision is, ask not what you can do for America, ask what you can do for me, Donald Trump. And that's exactly his governmental philosophy. That's it. In 2020, I went with Elizabeth Warren, who I think is the closest to Bernie. And at that point, I thought was the rising power of women. And she's a little bit younger. I thought maybe she would be better. And then, when her faded and Bernie faded, and it was clear it was going to be Joe Biden, I threw my support behind Joe Biden. And I continue to say, and I think this is important, not to protection or not to justify my position, I just believe this is a fact. Well, disputable fact, if there is such a thing. Every day we have Joe Biden as president, we're in better shape than if we had Donald Trump. But the question is America in so deep that Joe Biden can't get us out, right? And
well, that's
then
what
happens next?
actually Veg was saying something, that I think it's going to come down to whether this happens or it doesn't, because I think Biden's hoping for, Garland to do it, but as he says here, this could all be stopped by prosecutions and Garland getting off his ass.
Well, you know what, Veg?
Did get off his ass on one thing, and that's it.
Well, yes. And certainly, okay.
And we're not privy to what he can and can't do.
Right. And first of all, let me say, I live 3 metro stops from Washington, D.C., so it means I can be there pretty quickly. But Merrick Garland, nor anyone else in his department, calls me up and says, hey, Dave, we're planning this. Do you think it's a good idea? So, I don't know what they're planning. I don't know what they're doing. But I do think this, sometimes appearances are never reality. Would you agree with that, Brian? Appearances are never reality.
That's
that
right. You really
appearances
are.
But sometimes without the appearance, people abandon ship. And I think we're kind of at that point now where people are saying, come on, arrest somebody. Do something with the Trump family. Do something with the Trump cabinet. do something with somebody, and don't just bring these people up who attack and were a coup, if you want to say that, or insurrect, whatever you want to describe them as. They were out to undo America. Doesn't matter what you say. And how about a little bit more than house arrest? And let's not have 4 different judges on 4 different occasions say to the prosecutors or all Department of Justice prosecutors, what are you, this is ridiculous. You know what these people did? And give a stronger penalty than the prosecution agreed to. So certainly, I think, you know, and look, do they really think if they go after Trump on a charge, there's at least, I don't know, I'm making this up. I think there's at least 7 categories unrelated that he has shown and demonstrated, you know, serious crimes. So pick one and charge it. If you lose that, you still got 6 more shots. All double jeopardy means is you can't try a person on the same charge again if found innocent, right? Or found not guilty. So I do think if I were advising, and I'm not, I would say, guys, come here. Look, come on, huddle up, guys. Look, we got to get somebody. Who's the closest? Okay. Bill, what do you got? Charlie, what do you got? Susan, what do you got? Veg, what do you got? I'm going with Veg, okay? Because right now it sounds like Veg is, we may win it, we may lose it. It's not the biggest case, right? You don't want to go with the one, you know, prematurely, but I think you have to get something on the docket. And all we hear, and again, I'm certainly going to say I don't have the insight, is more charges added. Well, what about the ones that are already there, right?
Right.
You know, there's what I think since Trump's been out, there was one ongoing financial investigation, then a second before he got out of the White House, and we've added 2 more since then. Well, and they're not going to merge them all necessarily, or if they do, I don't, you know, why, you know. So that's my personal feeling. I don't know. Maybe next week, you know what I'm going to try to ask. You know, I always ask him. I'm going to see. I have a couple of my former students who are attorneys, who are with us. Not, I would love to have a with them on, but maybe they can give us some more guidance about what they think.
Well,
you know, and we may be totally off base, right? We may be totally off base because I'm not a lawyer.
Right. Well,
but it does seem
I'll believe it when I see it. Maybe I do have to see it.
I understand that.
Right.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Dave, yeah, Anti-Guy, I want to answer this question. He says, do you think Trump is at least politically astute despite being ignorant and demonic? Anti-Guy, I personally, just my opinion, I believe he is criminally astute. He thinks like a criminal. And he plays on a different field. So to call him politically astute, no, because he doesn't play that game. He's on a completely different level.
Right.
And he imposes that criminality on others, and then it becomes a wave, so that the politics don't matter. Just like, can you just get me 11,000 and so many votes? He doesn't care.
Yeah, no. As an Anti-Guy, I think it's an excellent question. I would say, well, we'll answer it. Well, I'm going to try the best I can if it's an excellent question. First of all, I agree with Brian, and then I'll add my own kind of emphasis to that. There's no question in my mind that Trump would have run as a Democrat. Trump would have run as a Republican. And there's indications in the past, I'm not making this up, he would have run on anything. That is what I believe, right? He has no party affiliation, nothing, right? Secondly, there are reports, and I believe maybe both of these to be true, maybe one of them to be true. I don't know one is one more believable than the other. That Trump ran for 3 reasons. He did not run to win the presidency. I believe that to be true. He ran to, number one, he was upset with NBC, right? He was upset with NBC because he felt he was the biggest star in the NBC world, and he was going to prove that by, going beyond reality star and showing his, showing by votes in the primary how big a star he really was. That's one. Second thing, and this I really do believe, not what I think is probably true, because they did file. Trump was, and he's certainly proven this, Brian. Trump was so upset at his treatment by NBC and the others that he wanted to form his own network, not realizing that he doesn't have the money he claims, and it's very hard to form your own network. The last network that was formed was Fox, And if you're going to form a network that is full of lies and right wing propaganda, that's been filled, by Fox, and then the others take take the scraps that are there. The third reason, and this is where a lot of times narcissists miscalculate, he wanted to establish his brand, and he speaks of his brand all the time. And so for him, and the moment I think, and someday we get enough history, or maybe Trump, if he, somehow we'll figure it out. But to me, the moment when he moved to a serious contender in his own mind was when he made, and I'm sure he didn't come up with it, somebody advised him to make the Mexican rapist remark, right? And of course, me thinking, okay, America's kind of normal, maybe, that's the end of him. And suddenly, that is when his numbers started going up dramatically. And from then on, he, along with the people who advised him, Stephen Miller, who would fit right in Nazi Germany, Gorka, who is a neo-Nazi, Sebastian Gorka, certainly Bannon, and Bannon is his philosophy and political is simply anarchy, tear it down with nothing in its place. Usually we think of anarchists, right, as leftists. Bannon is not that. He just doesn't. He just wants it done. And I guess he'll sit back and laugh, and I don't know what he expects to happen after that. So you've got all this going on, right? And those three reasons. And now suddenly, Trump being the ultimate con man, and I would argue with anybody who says he's not, I would argue with anyone for this reason. Basically, why is he such a good con man? He has no center. He's a narcissist. He has no central beliefs, and he can be of the moment. And a con man is only as good as the number of people you con and what you get out of the con. And I would submit to everybody listening tonight, or everyone in the world, or anyone who ever listens to this program, Donald Trump, why the ultimate con man? What bigger prize is there in America than the presidency? And he got it by conning the people. And the con continues, right? So, and why do I say, how many people conned? We know one number. We know 74 million people were either conned, you can't say they were all conned, or want like what he's selling. Right? And what he's selling is anti-Americanism, far greater than any Islamic jihad we could come up with. So, dangerous, of course, dangerous. Politically, no. Politics, just like he was able to blur the idea of the businessman and the reality star, he's blurred the line in politics where people believe he is a politician, and people like anti-guy, and I've asked that same question myself and going back and forth. But I think I've really resolved he has no political instincts. Those around him don't really have the greatest political instincts of what we call political instincts. What they are is cutthroats. And Brian, you did the best description at all. The best way to understand Donald Trump is he sees himself as the head of an organized crime family consisting of family members of his, and now those who followed him, and now the right, the entire Republican Party now, to me, is actually a criminal organization with a few people like Liz Cheney. And again, I do want to point this out every time I mention her name. Liz is doing a very brave thing, but let's not crown her the Queen of America, because remember, at this time, last year, she had the most conservative voting record in the House of Representatives. So if you believe that liberalism is better than conservatism, she was conservative number one, right? Apparently she does have some morals, but before we go there, her lineage's father is Dick Cheney, and certainly, I think Dick Cheney was more evil than Trump in this sense. Dick Cheney was smarter. Dick Cheney was more calculating. Dick Cheney was able to he manipulated the man he most needed to manipulate, George W. Bush. So, the Republicans, I'm sorry, haven't been good. We were talking tonight where I'm staying. I call her cousin Linda. She's Judy's cousin. And Brian, she was a fantastic history teacher. Probably in terms of accolades and what she did, better than you, better than me. I mean, she won State Teacher of the Year twice. She's the only history teacher to do that, and not in the popularity contest. And of course, we spend some time, talking about this idea of politics and things. We were talking about presidents. And, she says, I've never seen anything like this, which we all say. Here's someone who's spent a majority of her life. She has a master's from Johns Hopkins, who's done this. And so we are in some new area waters. And right now, those waters seem rough and murky and cold and dark.
Dave, I'm going to now play that 40-second
Okay,
piece
sounds good.
of Michael Flynn. We've kind of forgotten about him for a year or two, but
I'm
I think
glad
it's
because I have a
time.
couple of things I want to. I think I want
Yeah.
to talk. A couple of things. So it's a great segue.
I first ran across. Let me see if I can get to. Let's see. I first ran across the article on the Palmer Report, which is a very, very liberal publication. Very short articles by Bill Palmer and a few of his co-writers, and just some of the crazy things that Michael Flynn has said. But I've got an actual video clip of him, and I wanted to play this. Let's see if we can't get this happening here. So here we go.
I got to put, somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing or salads. Have you seen this?
Yes.
Have you seen this? I'm thinking to myself, this is the bizarro world, right? This is definitely the bizarro world. So there's the seriousness of what this professional realized he was doing wrong, and he's now, he's found a new way. And then there's just the laughability on the other extreme that these people are seriously thinking about how to impose their will on us in our society, and it's
take away your freedom of choice. They know better.
Right. So let me go back to our original scenes here, Dave.
Okay.
So what we've got here is a fellow that's trying to paint a picture that we're kind of like that. We want to, impose our will through such things as a vaccine or through a salad dressing or whatever. And I guess the real question is, number one, is he insane enough to be believing what he's saying? Or does he damn well know what he's saying and he's trying to, draw everybody in like Trump? What say you, Dave?
Okay. Let's see. You know what I heard today, Brian? I heard today, and I want to announce it officially, that you're the only human being in the world that has 5 penises. And I know that to be true. There's as much truth to that as there is putting the
That'd
vaccine
be kind
in
of
the
nice,
salad.
actually, if you think about it.
Well, not necessarily. It all depends. But what if they were? Well, never mind. We won't go there. But putting it in salad dressing, okay? So my first question to Mr. Flynn, if I'm a reporter, is, Mr. Flynn, who told you that? Okay? And that will tell you a lot about your question. I don't think he read it somewhere. Maybe. I don't think he made it up. Although it wouldn't be beyond his ability to do. But he presented that as a fact, not with none, no attribution. No attribution. He didn't say who said it. He didn't say where it was said. He didn't say when it was said. He didn't give us any kind of reference point where we can go back and look at that. Now, I had not seen that particular clip. I will tomorrow try to figure out, if I can, if I have time, may not, but anyway, this week, and try to report back next week's show where the hell the salad dressing came from. Now, I know that I don't have vaccine in my salad dressing, right? Now, think about it from this aspect too. Do you really think who's going to buy, realistically, and put it in the salad dressing? Do they do it at the White House? Where is this done? So it's like, again, we're right back, which I think is one of the beginning moments of this absolute insanity. Comet Pizza, where again, I just happen to go all the time. And, that's where they were drinking the blood and the babies and having the sex, and Hillary and whomever it was. But it was all happening in the basement, Brian. and this is just, I mean, I don't know much about life, but I know one thing. There is no basement in Comet ping pong. And the moment that is said, you have to question it. So here, show me where the salad, is there a factory somewhere? Does Pfizer have a factory where it, under orders of Kamala Harris, puts, this really expensive kind of thing in salad dressing? And then I would ask him, if I got older, I said, well, wait a minute, have you had any of it? And well, if you haven't, then, again, and you just keep, and see, what I'm so frustrated with reporters now. Now, granted, he'll run, he'll leave, but it's the appearances. There's some reporters that are very good at doing that. But so many now just, it's not that they're in the pocket of anybody. It's just they don't ask good, challenging questions. And I hate to be that old timer, but I think those of us who started in journalism at the time of Watergate and were working in journalism know, because really Woodward and Bernstein, you know how hated they were on their own paper by reporters, just not because they were jealous. They just, you're stupid. You don't know what you're doing. But that dogged questioning is what the press is supposed to do. And I mean, I'm not alone in that. I happen to have a lot of, and yes, I guess even not a friendship, a personal acquaintance, Soledad O'Brien. She's gone there. Somebody I urge you to read out there, writing about the press now, is James Fallows. And they're saying, they're pointing out these things. So, now, how does that happen? You can kind of blame that, interesting enough, on the Times and Barack Obama. Barack Obama was the first president to realize and use YouTube as a political weapon. And what was so dangerous about that? There's no questioning in YouTube, right? I mean, nobody's questioning us tonight on our show, right? I mean, the listeners, I could, but I mean, but yet if Mike Wallace, had a very big ego, is questioning Mr. Flynn, at least you can see the reactions. You can kind of get a feel. Mr. Flynn is a notorious liar. We know that. But we know that. I'd love to know the actual number of people who listened to that, who'd never heard anything about salad dressing and the vaccine, who came away convinced and are talking tonight to friends and neighbors and fellow, whatever the hell they are, about, isn't it terrible about this salad dressing and vaccine? So the danger is that we now, more probably than any other time, it's not that I don't know that people believe anymore what they want to believe. That's maybe always been that way. But you have this media that can reach them, and so that salad dressing can be in anywhere in America. We're in, I don't know, give me a date. 1841. Somebody has this weird conspiracy theory, and that circulates in 10 miles, right? So more dangerous today.
All right. Well, Dave, I want to ask you.
Wait a minute. Is that evil? No, was that evil? Go back to evil. Because I love almost all our listeners. No, the one about I heard it one time. Evil. Did you hear about the salad dressing? And if you did, why the hell didn't you call me? Now, what worries me tonight? Okay, we've talked about a lot of it. Okay, so I'm gonna take that question two ways, Brett. I'm gonna say what worries me, worries me, but also gives some cause for hope, and what is cause for hope. What worries me, and let me preface again, as I always think we should, I am not 1/1,000,000th as versed in what I'm going to talk about as Dr. Anthony Fauci, or probably anyone who's ever been through medical school. But again, trying to apply some common sense, and what I see initially is the new variant. I believe it's pronounced Omicron. Is that correct? I've only read it.
Omicron.
Thank you. Okay, because I just read it. So Omicron. All right. So why do I think this? I think for the common sense reason is, until we get the world vaccinated, all right, we're going to get these variants. And this one, from what I've read, is particularly
50 plus mutations.
Right, but particularly aggressive, particularly easy to spread, etc. But it's also mutating itself faster, right? And I don't know. It makes absolutely no sense. Let me try to say, if you, and I, it's like you know about Russia. I mean, I know a little bit about newspapers from there, and I guess it almost sounds like a spidey, tingling sense. But years ago, I mean, this is in the 1970s, Vineland, New Jersey, which was actually where I am tonight. There was a little small 2-paragraph item in the local Vineland paper about a doctor. His name was Dr. Sugar, and his missing wife. And I read those 2 paragraphs. That just doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up. There's something more here. And this Omicron, is that correct? Am I pronouncing it correctly now?
As far as I know, Omicron.
I don't know. I mean, okay, Omicron.
I know it's omni, meaning multi.
Oh, no, I got that. But there's just something. And again, nobody run in fear of this. It's not like when people heard what was it? The War of the Worlds broadcast by Orson Welles, and people ran out. I'm not saying that, but there's something bothering me about that. And then the other fact tucked into that is, I don't know. Somebody can help me out with the new figures, but at one point Africa was, I think, 6% vaccinated. It's a pretty large continent, right, with a hell of a lot of people. That's a lot of things out there going on that we don't have any control, over. Now, you talk about personal fears. I hope this doesn't come to pass. That was discussed greatly tonight where I live. So, cousin Linda has one daughter, who is married to Sam, and Sam travels all over the world. And as Jennifer did, she actually is fluent in French, and she was working in the French-speaking countries in Africa. But of course, COVID, she hasn't traveled as much. Sam, a little bit more. And last week, he was in South Africa for a week. Now, does that mean anything? He is fully vaccinated, including the booster. But it's just a little unnerving, right? I mean, for Linda to sit here and know that her son-in-law is with her 2 grandchildren and her daughter back home in London, and there's been a number of cases reported. And Brian, I wish I'd written it down, and I didn't. Just before we went on air, it was an astounding number. Somehow they tested a plane, and I think I don't know if it was 31 or 61. Quite a number of passengers had it already, right, coming in. Because now just think if we didn't stop that, and that's the other thing. So, what are we going to ban? America, it doesn't take effect to Monday because you don't put something in Monday. We've got a ban against people coming from South Africa and 6 other African nations. But it's already out in the Western world, right? At least 7 or 8 reported cases, and Lord knows how many. So I think the thing that concerns me the most, and it does relate to politics, because I do think up until Trump, we were kind of looked at as a leader in the world. Certainly not, Russia wouldn't follow us in China, but I think a lot of places would. And so
real quick, Dave, Nina,
yes.
I think she's right. It's Omicron, so we're both wrong.
Thank you. That's why I said I've only read it, and
so Omicron. I always thought it was Omni. My mistake.
What is it? So how is it again?
Omicron.
Anyway,
Omicron.
Remember, I'm the guy who was a Civil War fascinated, only read it, and for years as a 8 and 9-year-old set up Appomattox Courthouse, which kind of made sense to me, and of course it's Appomattox, so it's very hard to read a word and not hear it, and I hadn't heard it pronounced. So I'll call it the Big O. We'll name it after.
That's our mistake, but the issue is the virus itself.
And certainly I would admit I'm not Donald Trump. I do make mistakes, and I do admit them. But I think what we're talking about is this. If it's not this one, will it be the next one? And will there be one? And think about this, Brian. If we have to go back to square one, right? Okay, we'll go back, but that's going to be a very hard psychological thing for people, myself
especially
included.
With the schools.
Well, and do you pull them again? Now the schools
they'll do everything to keep them. Well, Florida won't.
Well, no, and
unless he wants to see Republicans and Democrats say the Democrats will stay home, and maybe the Republicans will.
Well, so again, and again, I base things, sometimes on how I react to things, and as I mentioned, I was on a cruise doing work, not just cruising, writing about it for music and interviewing the musicians on the ship. But for 8 days, I didn't have to wear a mask. And when I say it wasn't hard to come back and put one on. I mean, in my mind, but physically I had forgotten about it. I started walking into a couple places, I didn't have it on, or I'm walking outside and I still got it on. And I was pretty good before. So, I mean, even these little changes, 8 days kind of changed my pattern. And, you know, we've had a lot more than 8 days of being in some kind of feeling that while we weren't completely out yet, we were still in it, it was better. So that's one. The second thing I said was something that gives me pause or concern, and at the same time, some hope. I mentioned last week that we talked at length, that we even had this special night session on Kyle Rittenhouse. And I said at that point that to me, there were 4 cases, legal matters, up for grabs that would really go a long way in determining, you know, where we were in terms of law and America. And so the first one was the Mr. Jones in Oklahoma. And despite, and I'll just say asshole, I think that's appropriate, asshole annex on the part of the governor, who waited to the very last minute to approve him. And I mentioned before, but I think this bears repeating for me. This is only my personal take on him. He said, I pray daily to God. And I would say to the governor of Oklahoma, if you've got a God who doesn't give you the answers to something that's so obvious that I think, that no, you're playing politics. But if you really believe that, then your God is not a good God and you're following a bad God, and please don't do that or whatever. But he did indeed. Now, I saw a couple people say, oh my God, that's terrible. It got commuted from, not that it got commuted, but he still got life in prison. The difference is, Brian, that he now has a chance for more appeals. And I do think, based on the evidence that I've seen, that he is not guilty and he may actually win one of those appeals eventually. So an innocent man was not, whose life was not taken. So that was pretty good. We come up to the Charlottesville case, which was the next one decided. And there, it was a victory, okay, in terms of the money levied, right, millions of dollars, against 6 of the leading, what should I say, right-wing activists in the country, among others. Now, I know they'll appeal, but I mean, at least that was the verdict. And of course, the one that I think gives us both, we clap a little bit, but then we worry too, is the Aubrey case in Georgia. A white jury found that 3 white ignorant crackers, that's the way I can say it, decided to take the law into their own hands, and they're all going away for a long, long, long time. Life. I don't know if it's life without parole, but life is a pretty stiff sentence, especially when you're the age of some of those. And that's great. Okay, that's great. And the system worked, and we should look at it. But here's the caveat. Are you aware of what happened the next day? Or I guess, yeah, actually it was the next day. Are you aware what the follow-up to the case was, Brian? Okay. The original prosecutor, a female, refused.
Oh, yeah, she's in trouble, right? She's in trouble.
Oh, why? Here's why. She refused to bring the case forward. She refused to bring the case forward. And no charges were going to be filed, and they were going to walk among us as free men. And thankfully, a video emerged showing what would happen. You say, well, that's good. But it went to the police, and they still did nothing, right? But there was enough, the video circulated, and suddenly, now, you got to do something. So, yes, the system worked, but the system didn't work, without oil, gasoline, fire being poured on it. So, yes, that's good. So I think there's, points to be praised there and points to be. Now, what really makes me feel good this week is this. I've said all along, and I still believe it to be true, that evil is powerful. People suffer under evil. But I always compare evil to like, the people doing evil are like piranhas. If there's no good guys to eat, they begin to eat each other. And we're already seeing that to a certain extent. What makes me say that? Marcia Taylor Greene comes out and basically says, in her coded words, that the current House leader, Mr. Kevin, really isn't a good leader. So we begin, so already we begin to see that split, which is good. Right? You mentioned earlier Flynn. He's involved in a big one, and it involves Kyle Rittenhouse and every player, the pillow guy, Marcia Taylor Greene again. And what happened is that, of course, and who's at the front of this? I think America's maybe worst, not the worst man, that's right, Tucker Carlson. And so Tucker gets the scoop, if you will, big surprise there, of it being the first person to interview Kyle Rittenhouse. And in that interview, which of course was prompted, they were aware of it, they've been actually working on a documentary, which during the time of the trial, which is nothing illegal about that, just a little maybe unethical in terms of the Kyle and doing that, and that's certainly on the part of Fox News to do that. You're not supposed to interfere in those things, but it had no bearing on the trial. But what happens is Tucker does this interview, and in that, Lin Wood, you know who Lin Wood is, right?
Yes, attorney.
Right, the attorney. He says he lays a charge that basically Lin Wood, who was on the case earlier, before he dropped him, he got other attorneys, misled him, pocketed the money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Lin Wood at one point was one of the leading people, and Mike Flynn, it's kind of not a battle between them, but they kind of sharing this thing. And Lin Wood has 725,000 Twitter followers, so at least you could draw from that. I don't know how many Flynn has. Certainly, those numbers pale in comparison to Trump, but Trump has a Twitter account that he can't use. So they're looking to fill that vacuum, and both of them were possible contenders for that. So what happens is now you've got Flynn is siding with Kyle Rittenhouse, okay? But the pillow guy is siding with Lin Wood. And you're starting to see these things fragment, right?
It's always a good thing.
What? It's always a good thing.
Yes.
Now, the question becomes, do they just fragment? And what happens at fragmentation? Do they do, okay, at the end, we'll vote for the Republicans? Is that what we have? Or is Marcia Taylor Greene convinced that she can say Kevin McCarthy is not a good leader and it should be me or my friend Matt Gaetz or my friend Gosar or my friend Lauren Boebert? Boebert also did something very interesting this week. And if anybody out there could explain to me why she did this, I have no clue. They don't do anything without a reason. She attacked, her Muslim colleague. And have you seen the tape of the joke she made?
I believe I did. It just
it's just revolting and disgusting. And she's up there like she's some kind of comic. And damn it, first of all, you're just a horrible person, Lauren. And it's not helping any that you're up there making light and attacking the substance. And she comes after her in this joke. And basically, the way I'm paraphrasing here, but she sees this policeman, Capitol Hill policeman, running down the corridor toward the elevator she's on. She turns and sees, a Muslim colleague behind her, and said to the officer, or claims in this joke, well, I said, look, she's not carrying a backpack. I guess she's okay. Well, what's that, right? I mean, that's just wrong on so many reasons. And initially, she refused to apologize. But yesterday, she issued an apology. Now, why? I have no idea. Certainly, she didn't suddenly find morality. So why? Do you have any speculation why she would do that? I mean, I don't. I mean, what the heck? So something's up there. So it could be good, it could be nefarious, it could be bad. But what I'm saying is what I like this week and what makes me feel good is they're not going out with one united voice. And also what's good this week, their uniter, Trump, can't reach them enough to do that. Yes, he does bring Kyle Rittenhouse, to Mar-a-Lago, but he's still not as effective. Could you imagine? And I'm still not real sure we were right. I had a kind of hard time with him being bounced, although it's perfectly correct under the Constitution to do that. But overall, I had to say, even though I'm certainly anti-censorship whenever possible, that you had to take that that foghorn, if you will, or microphone away from Donald Trump. And nobody's really emerged. And now we're seeing, as these people battle, they're beginning to fight each other, indeed, as piranhas would do. So they're kind of the three things that were on my mind this week. One, I hope it can be put to rest pretty easy if we find out what's going on with the new variant. The second, it means we still have work to do. But really, if you want to put it in the column, it was 3-1 us, the good guys of the 4 cases. Makes me feel good. I don't see anything bad about it happening. Is this breaking up, or at least not just on the surface? And remember, these people, Brian, and I will say these people, these people want to follow their leader, and you don't attack their leader. Well, they got to make a decision now. Do I go with Flynn, or do I go with Lynn Wood, both of whom have been extremely popular? Okay, Gary, I'm going to ask you to be a little bit more specific. I always value what you say. Do you say wistful thinking or wishful thinking? And Gary, could you be more specific where you see that? Because I always like, when people challenge my thinking, I think I know what you mean. It's not that you're not clear. I just spoke about 3 things. So you're saying they're all that way? Or, do you just, I mean, I'm kind of assuming, and it's a danger to assume, I think you're probably talking about the last one, where I feel pretty good about it. And if it is, please let me know your thoughts on it, because I think that's, I hate to be wrong, but I am wrong. And, and the only way you're wrong is somebody points it out to you. So that's my, what is that? A little bit more than 2 cents for, what's bothering me, what feels good about this week. Brian, back to you. Is there an issue this week?
Is there an issue
anywhere
this week?
That really hit home to you, whether it's a new something or whether it's a continuing something? Because really what we're doing so much, and it's understandable, in this reality TV world of politics now, it really is, cult of personality. So issues get lost in it. We got to remember, they are and will remain united. Okay, Gary. And I'm certain, I certainly can't dispute that. As you heard, I said it remains to be seen what they will do. Will they vote as a bloc? And then of course, nothing matters. But I'm going to go the other way, and I think because they are such cult of personality people and are so driven with no moral background, that they may start sniping at one another, not sniping verbally, but they may start taking pot shots at others, literally. I mean, not verbal pot shots, but gunshots. Let's go, Brandon. I still, are you? I mean, that amazes me. That's the go fuck you, Joe Biden. Now let's not be, obtuse, and let's not hide behind language. Let's go. Brandon becomes fuck you, Joe Biden. I looked at that this week. That's just so damn bizarre. Say what you mean.
Yeah, well, I don't know if there's any one thing, Dave. I think looking at, just from my perspective, being a teacher, it's difficult to hear these right-wingers say things such as, we work from the ground up, and the first place you go is the school boards, and that's where they're going to go. Now, I don't see that happening where I teach, of course, but in many, many places that could be their plan. And that's usually, as you know, how people get their start politically is to go to the school board.
Certainly, Jimmy Carter proves you can go from a Georgia school board to the White House.
Right. So it's a war out there, and it leads back to my initial comment. How you can be friends with these people, because it's not the war even that you were talking about when you had Wallace, you had Humphrey, and Nixon. This is something this is just for our lives here. This is that serious. They're willing to kill us. Look at they've endorsed a killing of 2 people and an arm blown off by another from Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, I know you said 3-1, but they're all bad, and it should be 4-0. And you agree with me?
I'm saying Rittenhouse. Yeah, and I forgot. I neglected to say something that didn't shock me, but I saw this week. Did you see, i.e., the Rittenhouse matter? While most of the congressmen and women who have no business being on the planet, let alone being elected to some of the highest offices in America, did you see what your blonde-haired dream girl, Marsha Taylor Greene, what she wants to do with Rittenhouse? Well, some of them just want to bring him on staff. She wants to go a step further. She wants to give him the American Freedom Medal.
I thought
no,
you were
that's
going to
serious.
say she wants to bear his child.
No, well, I'd rather she do that. I mean, can you imagine? Look, no matter how you cut, and I've said before, and people don't like this, and I'll stand on what I said. The worst thing is that the jury returned the correct verdict given Wisconsin's perverted, insane gun laws, right?
Well,
And
I don't
that's-
even care about that. I'm thinking the judge, you know, he put the thumb on the scale, and I don't even care what the laws say or what. I don't care. I know I'm speaking as a novice in this, but the thumb would go down, and no matter what would happen, that judge had it in for those.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Those prosecutors.
I'm going to try to, not my point, but because I want you to be correct.
He's like
I
those
want myself to
Southern
be correct.
judges, you know.
That is true, or not true. It's immaterial. But what I'm saying is, I would prefer actually that it be the judge who swayed the case. I would prefer actually that it be an all-white jury that could. But no, the law. And do you know what's going to happen? The most liberal judge in Wisconsin, confronted with that, is going to have to. He won't do the theatrics that the judge in this case did, but he's still going to have to. You speak to the jurors about the law, and the law says, which is beyond belief frightening to me, that what Kyle Rittenhouse did in the state of Wisconsin is okay. I don't care what you think. I don't care what I think. I don't care what anybody in America thinks. That, and as you always point out, Brian, how do you change that? Well, you got to get a hold with a majority of Democrats who are whether you like Democrats or not, or the opposition. Then they have to change the law, and then you're still back, with back and forth, and, this gun fetish of America, is not going to be the sole ruination of our country, but it certainly bears. And again, I will challenge anybody in America to dispute what I'm going to say next. That is one. Your pet thing was the environment. Not pet thing, but one of your big issue that you worked on was the environment, and mine is or was and still is the issue not of gun control, because I think that the issue of guns, violence, and hatred in America, because they're a bad trio, man. They're a bad trio. And so I've been back. I've read the Second Amendment, and granted, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not on the Supreme Court. All those things I'm not. But I do know something about words, and it begins this way. A well-regulated militia. Now, forget about the fact as I always say, let's leave the militia in. I don't care, how you want. But notice, people might say the word regulated was third word. That is grammatically incorrect. If you hyphenate two words, they become one word. So the second word in the Second Amendment is regulated. Now, I believe, Brian, I don't think I'm that far off, that regulated is in the same family as regulation. And regulation means restrictions. And so anyone who says the First Amendment, you can put no restrictions on gun ownership is, I'm sorry, best I can say is full of shit. They're wrong. But again, 5 members of the Supreme Court felt differently. Okay. And suddenly now the NRA runs with that. So, I wish people would read, think about what they read, and they don't. Or our side certainly does more thinking than the other side because we have more brain capacity. I'm trying to look. Okay, Kim, that's good. Getting a new battery for the laptop this week. Let's see what's Trev's up to. So far, only troll.
We haven't had any real issues. I think it was maybe a year or two ago when we first started, we had somebody that was trolling. And we tried to come across fairly to that individual, and that individual decided not to come on the show. And
unfortunately, Brian, that's another word that's become kind of perverted, in our divided world now, or divided America. Trolling is a specific act, right? But if you raise any criticism of the right, you're trolling them. I mean, they use that word because they don't understand what the troll was. The evil guy under the bridge, right?
Well, yeah, that's why they call us a communist. But
Yeah,
by the way, if
I-
they
I-
if Trump does take control in 24, in other words, they win in 22, they win 20, then all bets are off, and then this show becomes something of a nuisance
look,
to them.
I'm not. Look, I'm not brave by any stretch of the imagination. But I would feel that I fulfilled one of my purposes if we were doing this show and I got arrested for saying what I believe. I mean, I don't want that to happen. Um, Unlike you, I have been in jail for protesting, actually. It's not a fun place to be. It's certainly not a fun place to be if you go in as a left winger when you're actually safer with the prisoners, of course, than you would be with the guards who are
Right.
heavily Trumpers. You certainly, the Aryan Brotherhood, who become strong to battle the black groups, there, I mean, you're going to be, so yeah, it's not someplace I want to go. But, if you did, I mean, that's, again, it's what are you willing to risk? What are you willing to do? Something I'm not willing to do at this point is pick up a gun. I'm not willing to do that. Does it not mean someday I will? I can't say that. But right now, that is my line. That is, my literal line that I cannot cross right now.
That's if it ever got to that point. Again, this is where I'd say to the Chinese, you take us, and I'll just let you come right down Main Street.
Right, and I'm certainly not belittling that. That's nice, but what if the Chinese and Russians leave us alone, saying, why should we risk anything? They're going to destroy their damn selves. I mean, that was what if I was Chinese or Russian or, an Islamic nation who was opposed to the United States.
I don't know what. Maybe the Canadians wouldn't take us, but they take all of our intelligent people, and Canada will quickly become the strongest nation on earth.
And all that's. But I mean, think about this. Okay, you raised an interesting point. Okay, so let's go back to the American Revolution. We're not a country. We're trying to form, and depending on which historian you read, it was roughly 33% to 40% of the Americans who weren't Americans yet wanted to be an independent nation. And probably about an equal number said, no, we'll stay with England. And then there's the proverbial leave us alone. All right. So in that, I don't know that we would have won. You can speculate. Had a few things not happen, but one of those was the entry of the French. While even before they came, French generals were coming here, Lafayette. Polish general came here and trained the troops at Valley Forge. So, I mean, we were getting outside help from developed nations who were ahead of us militarily. Let's assume a weird case scenario, since you said tonight, we are in the Twilight Zone, we begin to get divided. And what if, France decides to come in with us, and then somebody else decides to come in with the other guy, and suddenly, wow. And I don't see that scenario.
A cruel way for us to have to die in our waning years.
Look, America, and it's not its people. America has oil. America has wealth. America has things that a lot of nations covet and would want. And I just don't know. I said before, and I believe this to be true at this point, we will not have a civil war as we once did. What we will have are guerrilla-type actions on the part of the right, who do have more guns, who are more prone to violence for a while. And then the question becomes, will the military save us? Will they crush them? That kind of thing. Or, what about if there's certainly a lot of guns in the black community, right? Unfortunately, for the most part, young black men tend to use them on each other. There's certainly not a lack of armament there. So then does that, it's all speculation, but there's not much good speculation out there, right? I mean, I don't see Donald Trump as the leader and Joe Biden sitting down and agreeing to running the country, because Biden's idea of America is completely opposed and antithetical to Trump's. And Biden's idea is closer to me. Bernie's even closer, or I'll do the kind of the triumvirate there. Bernie, Elizabeth Warren. Well, actually, it's a quartet, I guess. Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, AOC, and
Got a comment here. You want to take that one?
sure.
James?
This is Gary Wistful. Your odds numbers have you sounding nostalgic for a time when things made sense. As for words, it is 20 or 20, both of you. Okay, Gary, again, I'm going to ask you to explain. Wistful. In what sense? I said America's never goddamn united. Is that wistful for a time when we were united? I'm confused. Okay, secondly, sounding nostalgic for a time when things made sense. You and I came up in the 60s. What kind of sense did that make? Okay, what kind of sense did the 50s make with McCarthyism and anti-gay movement? What kind of sense did any of it make? You know, so you got to put that quote back up again, because I think what Gary says something that's important. When things made sense, Gary. I mean, if I any way implied to you, or you inferred from what I said that America's ever made sense, it never has, and in some ways I think it can't, because we were born with, we were born of violence, we were born of slavery, we were born of hatred, we were born of killing, and none of that made sense. One more time, because there's one more thing I need to see. Yeah, just leave it up there as long as you can. As for words, it is 20 or 20, both of you. Is it 20 or 20? Gary, please explain that to me. Are you saying that we mispronounced? Are you saying, certainly, I don't know. I'm wondering about the others, the first two comments, and I'm really wondering about what you mean. So if you'd be kind enough to put it up there, we can respond to it, or I can respond to it in kind. And I hope that you do not think I dismiss, anyone's comments. I want to be clear. I want to be forceful. And if I've made a mistake, I want to be corrected.
Is that 20? Is it 20 like England?
I have no
England?
idea. And maybe, Gary, maybe that was too deep or something for me. I'm not pointing any fingers at you. I'm just saying I don't understand. That other comment that was just up there, throw that up too. We need to comment on some comments.
Okay, comment on some comments.
China has more wealth as of 2 weeks ago. It's hard to maintain objectivity without actually objecting to things that are objectionable. Real eyes realize real lies. Okay, that sounds a little clever, but it's actually true. Okay, and again, that comes back to my belief, I guess, that we, the us, in the us versus them, are much closer to the reality that exists than they are. And whether it's a simple thing like Joe Biden won the presidency, I don't care what you say, what you do. There's been no proof otherwise. Okay, you think now?
I'm gonna go back.
Okay, you think, what if Trump pardons the McMikes in 2026 time served? Okay, Gary, let me say something about what you just put up there. And Brian said it earlier. If Trump wins, all bets are off. Okay, so that becomes, and I can sit here all night and say I don't see that happening, and that is some truth. But I can't say it won't happen. And as long as I can't say it won't happen, and he is still by leaps and bounds, there's a cliche for us, ahead in every Republican poll. And the scary part is, as of recent polls, he actually still beats Biden head to head. Now, that's subject to change. But yeah, I mean, look, we know that Trump is vengeful. We know that he has
Dave,
personal hatred.
you have a response from Gary here.
You said you know words. Yeah, I do. The word is spelled 20. Brian started the show with the same sloppy mispronunciation. Oh, so you were attacking. Gary says something, and I'm not attacking you, Gary, but I want to say something about words. I'm not pedantic about words. We've all had teachers. Oh, ain't a word. Yeah, ain't is a word. It's a fine word. And I was listening to someone today who was very educated, but she's from South Jersey. And she says Pictures as pictures. And you hear that commonly. The point is, you have to, and we all have to ask ourselves, do you point that out, that error, or you know what it means and you go on? And I think the idea of it is if you know what it means, you go on, because to attack it, then suddenly you're playing this kind of game and all that. So yes, I agree, we need to be clear. Yes, we need to say what we mean and mean what we say and all those other things we throw in there. But as far as it's more important than the words and correct pronunciations to me, and this is just me, it's more important, the meaning transcends that. Now, if the word does not make sense, it's too large, if it's 16 syllables and you're using it to a 6-year-old, that isn't cool. Right? It isn't
Okay,
good.
so you said English teacher.
I was, yeah, I was an English teacher. But you know what? I don't think and again, well, Gary said, I got a point. I really didn't care. I cared what people think as my students. I didn't care. I never put a red mark on any of my students' papers. I never did. We'd sit down and say, here's what you do with writing. What are you trying to say? Do you think you said it the best way? Well, let's go back and look again. Is there a better way to say it? It's about meaning and message. It's not even about correct. And you've all seen that. Gary and all of us have seen the thing where you transpose the letters as long as something is in there, you can read it. I mean, it's about communicating. It's not about showing off. It's sort of like, I guess, to me, and this is a sore spot, not personally, but yeah, the whole thing. It's like I could be the best dressed person at any given moment, male person or male and female person in America. But if inside I'm corrupt, I'm still corrupt. And I think sometimes we look at how people say things. It is. I've been in hundreds of writing workshops. I've delivered writing workshops, and a few stick in my mind where somebody wrote complete and utter bullshit with large words. And he's so good. No, if you don't make sense, if you can't understand someone, they're playing. Well, actually, what they're playing is a version of mental masturbation, or the idea of I'm better than you because. Now, if it comes down to a question of I don't understand, like when I asked you, Gary, and you got back and explained it, that's great. That cleared up, and that was as much my problem. Okay, Broadcasting Fellows, another platform. Again, I think I understand what you're saying, but I kind of know that. Yes, this is another platform. So I assume what you're saying is, in your view, you should be maybe more precise. And I think you're absolutely correct. If we were really broadcasting a TV show, what we're broadcasting, and it's our purpose, is this. What we're broadcasting is two guys who've been doing this for a long, long time, right? And when I say doing it, it's just we talk, we do this, we've argued. But again, this is not great riveting television because we agree too much. I mean, riveting television is me going up against the ultimate right winger, or Brian going up against the ultimate right winger, and this is two left wingers sitting there and talking. Now, if we were submitting this for the Oscar or the Emmy, not with the Emmy, I think this would not win. Okay, if what you're saying is you should spend more time researching this show, no, because what's nice about this, Brian.
Oh, he's calling you, Dave.
I'm calling you, Dave, from now on. Yeah, I have no problem with that. You know what you can call me? You can call me Zimmy. You can call me Bob. You hear that Zilla song? You can call me anything you want. And I won't even add don't call me late for dinner, although I do like to eat.
But do call him late. Do call him late.
It doesn't matter. And it's funny, Brian, how life repeats things. My wife and I, we've been married a while, 48 years, and we got in an argument, as we do all the time. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit about this. Kind of.
I think it'd be good in a way because it would help us improve, Dave. If Gary could get a chart of all the things that we mispronounced, and then you guys could go over it for a couple hours on your phone, of course.
But what's interesting, and it kind of makes the point I'm trying to make, with myself being kind of the villain, and I like to do that apparently. So today, as I said, we're in South Jersey, so we went to visit our niece, who has 4 children, all of whom were there between the ages of 5 and 13. and they're all females, and I pick on them, like I'm the crazy uncle, which is, it's not a role, it's who I am. And I guess at one point I'm sitting on the couch and my shirt slides up, right? And so they can see this belly. And I'm not proud of the belly, but it's there. And we come home, and Judy said, she wasn't upset with it. She said, "You know why your belly showed?" I said, "Yeah, because I got a belly." She said, No, it's your posture. I said, "What do you mean it's my posture? Like if I suck it in, I don't have my idea of it is," and that's kind of the way I feel about people worrying about the appearance of the words or what is said. I've got a big belly, whether it's my posture or not. I'm okay with that. Do I like it? No. Could I do something about it? Yeah. Lose weight. Okay. But I'm not going to. It's not I don't think it's unhealthy at this point in my life. So, Gary, we just have to, if I understand you correctly and you understand me correctly, we just have to agree on this one to disagree, or
how about disagree to disagree?
Now, here's the other thing. And Gary, I'm using you as an example. How do you find this example? Okay. And please, Gary, do not take this personally, because you and I go back far longer than Brian and I. You really have the advantage in any battle between you and me in this show, because you can just simply stop watching. Okay. Now, for me, if someone says something to me about a performance, which I think this is, I have to make a decision. I could leave the show, or I can confirm, and I'm satisfied with what I deliver. I'm satisfied with what Brian delivers. Let's be clear. I've taught communications. I've taught news reporting at a college level. I've taught at a graduate level. Would I submit this as an example of great communication? No. But would I submit this as two guys talking and having some people listen to them on Saturday night? I would. That's all. I don't want to belabor the point. And Gary has the right to say or do. He has the right to do. He has the right to say whatever he thinks. And your posture. Yeah, I like that. And Gary has a good sense of humor too. So I don't think that Gary won't talk to me for 6 months. But no, it's not that.
Well, he can always come on the show, Dave, and help correct us.
But what's funny is I've told you, and I do have the advantage over many people in this. As a reporter, you learn very quickly. X number of people are going to like what you do, and Y number of people are going to hate what you do, and that just goes with the territory. And the only way to
one of those. It reminded me of. I was thinking that you're going to play Rodney Dangerfield and ask him to straighten out your Longfellow.
No. Yeah, I think we're kind of laughing at, but I think Gary raises an interesting point, and the interesting point is, if you're trying, and the other thing I would address, not to Gary, but to anyone, if we were trying to sway people, I think we would choose a different communication mode. I don't think anybody, as you pointed out earlier, I think, as far as I know, and I don't know about lurkers, right? But as far as I know, one person in whenever we started it, it's been more than a year now, had came on and actually asked questions and indicated that he not made up his mind, but he wanted to hear more about it. Everybody else, we're kind of here, okay? So to me, this show is also about, I don't know, spending my Saturday night doing something. That's part of it. The other thing is I've learned so much, and Brian, again, we're not mutual, admiration. Oh, I love you, Brian. I love you, Dave. But this opportunity has really, wait a minute. I can see that you are not very happy tonight.
Believe me, Dave doesn't care. Anthony, Dave does not give a shit.
Anthony,
he doesn't give a shit.
No, Anthony, I want to share with Anthony something. I don't know Anthony well, but I want to say something to him. Anthony, you, and I think it's legitimate, are a caring person. And I mean that in the highest sense of praise. I certainly care about things, but I don't really care about myself in the sense that, if I did give you the impression that I'm unhappy, no, I'm not. What I am is concerned for my country. What I am is concerned for the people who think like me. What I am is concerned mostly for my grandchildren who are coming back from Australia. I'm very grateful to see them, but they will be with their you know, Shannon's family in Boston, then they'll be with us, and then they go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where they will be probably for the next 4 years. And you know, it has nothing to be with Tuscaloosa. It has to be Tuscaloosa right now is no worse than any other place in America. It's America that's being troubled. So I hope you don't, you know, feel. And if you do, I really appreciate the concern. I'm not being flippant. I'm not. But I really, if I'm giving you the impression that I am unhappy, that is far from the truth. And not to be flippant myself, but I will share to anyone out there. I hate that. I will not share. I will tell anyone out there. It is really hard to be unhappy when you are retired. It really is. I mean, it really is.
And Dave, I just know your person. I mean, people have to trust me. Dave, even on his most difficult days, no, he doesn't. He's not affected by a lot of things at all. I'm saying this truthfully. You know,
no.
He doesn't give a shit.
It's not necessarily a good thing. You know what I mean? And look, we all have, you know, it's night. Let's self-analyze Dave, not from me. I mean, me, self-analyze myself. And I think some of it obviously is somewhat of a defense mechanism, you know, to not let them in, you know, but most of it is, if you really ask me, and again, Anthony, I'm not directing it to you, I'm directing it to anyone who would have this type of question. If you had 2 rooms tonight, and one was happy and one was not happy, I'm walking in the happy room. And the nice thing is, I'm walking in the happy room, and I don't say this, I mean, I can say it. I'm walking in the happy room because I am happy, not because I'm drunk, because I used to do a lot of that, not because I'm high as you can be, you know, on drugs. You know, I never really liked downs. This is not about Dave's addiction problems, but yeah, I was an addict. I understand. So there is a sense of happiness that's always there, this joy, and what it is, you know, again, I'm not preaching. I'm just what it is I find myself now somewhat of not a control freak of others, but a control freak of me. I like to be in control of me, and the irony of that is when you're taking drugs or drinking, the first person you lose control of is yourself. And so again, that I have this, you know, not existential, I don't even know what the word is, this ultimate happiness, and then everything that comes along with that. And you know, again, it's not about me, although it's spending a lot of time on me, but the idea of being happy, you know, I think again is a relative term in the sense of, you know, if you know, okay, I'll do it this way. Best I can do. I'm going to go back to my childhood. I'm in Methodist church. I don't know, 6, 5. And you remember those of us who have Christian. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. And I'm going to do it tonight. I'm clapping my hands.
Oh, that's good. Well, Dave, it's been a nice, relaxing show tonight, actually.
In a world that isn't relaxed.
Yeah, despite the fact that you were, you know, actually you're in Vineland, but the fact that you have to use, you know, your laptop here that you don't really want to use, and your headphones. And all
I
that
do have
kind
a
of stuff.
question to anybody out there, especially to you. Like I said, I haven't done a show without a microphone in all the shows we've done. I'll be interested to. I have not honestly, Brian. I can't watch a whole show we've done. Not because of
Neither do I. I mean, I might put it on for
it's just not the way that I
minutes
do.
to check it out. I don't watch it again.
No, but I'm just saying I will watch probably a couple minutes just to see how this non-microphone, you know, built into this old. Well, not old. It's not ancient, but it's what I don't know, 6 years old. You know, Mac Air, small notebook, sounds like versus, you know. And if I find out, Brian, because you told me I had to buy those 7 mics for different sounds. If I find out I spent $42,000, you know, I mean, think about it. You know, is the Blue Yeti or whatever you choose to use, the Shure, you know, or whatever you choose to use. I like Rode microphones. I have a couple of them. You know, are they really better, or is this as good? Well, I'm going to go with this. You know, if you know, I did have to rush out and spend. I wanted to find the cheapest headphones I could find for tonight, and these are these things that I have on my head right here cost me all of $19.99. Now, there are headphones I've seen, I'm sure they're more expensive. I've seen headphones for $350. So how do these compare to that? I don't know. I heard well tonight. You know, will I go back? I don't have a $350 pair, but this is the first $19.99 pair I've had. So that's kind of the way I guess that kind of sums up, you know, and the show's done almost. And I feel that we did the best we could do, not under the circumstances, what I want. Now, the only difference is, people, you know, this is what Brian and I would be doing if I was in his living room or we were on the phone and we just, or I shouldn't say we, Brian decided that it might be nice to show that. And I said, let's go along with it. And so here we are.
Yeah, we come from the earth up, you know. So, all right, Dave, it's great.
One last thing, ladies and gentlemen. I know, at the risk of sounding sexist, that I don't mean to offend anyone. There is a possibility, not a probability, that I will be broadcasting next week on Saturday night, not a definite, from the XXX Exotica Convention at the Dulles Convention Center right outside of Washington, D.C. If that indeed happens, what I would like anyone to do, and Brian, I don't want to warn them now, if you're the least bit offended by what's in the background, please let me know, because I probably won't do anything about it, but I just like, I'm not setting out to do it. And it may be done from who knows where, but that's a possibility.
All right, Dave, I'm going to leave you with some little political parodies, some fun stuff that I did. I acted like a Republican a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago. I think I still have this. So I'm going to put it on, and then I'm going to sign off. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for being with us.
And we'll be back next week.
Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your criticisms, and I use that in the correct meaning of criticisms. Criticisms are giving you feedback.
Dave, I do have one criticism of yours.
Yes.
Your pants are too tight.
Oh, no. Okay. Let me explain something about it. Let me stand up here for a minute. Hold on. Let me say it. Actually, while my belly is not as slim as I want, you can see that my pants are not too tight. I can prove that by doing this.
All right.
Can you do this with your pants? Look how
No, I cannot do that.
Me. Yeah, so I'm not saying you're a liar, Brian, but I'm saying your eyesight made me feel.
All right. I'm just joking, by the way, Dave.
I know that.
No. I saw somebody yelled that to a preacher back in Bowling Green in 80, I think, you know. Anyway, Dave, I'm going to say goodbye. I might see you tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. Tomorrow's a bad day for me.
Possibility.
It is a bad day for me, though, Dave, to be honest with you. Tomorrow is a bad
Brian,
day.
You set it up this way. I really don't give a flying fadoobie about seeing you. I want to see Ronnie and her mom. I don't. You're the least important person in the house. So you can go do what you want. I'll see Ronnie and her mom.
All right, folks. We'll see you.
Yeah, I'm going to teach you some knowledge today, you liberals out there. Help you understand why you lose all the fucking time. You see, what we have here is like a range war, you know, and it's survival of the fittest. And I don't mean Darwin, because I know that his shit is. It kind of works at the political and local level. I'll show you what I mean. Taxes. I don't like any goddamn taxes. I own my own business. And I figure because I own my own business, I take a few liberties. For example, if I get paid in cash, you think I'm gonna declare that shit? I'm keeping it for myself. No harm, no foul. And when I invest in stocks, I'm getting a tax rate half of what your income tax is, and I don't have to do jack shit. I just get my money. You. Yeah. And some other things. Like you think you're gonna win the fucking vote. You think you're gonna take Donald J. Trump out. Well, we got something for you. We can work around that. If it's just a matter of a few thousand votes in our state, Old Johnny will take care of that. Not only that, we can make it very difficult for people to vote, if you know what I mean. Maybe just have one worker at the polling station. You have a line about a mile long. 8 o'clock, it's over. Yeah. I do what I want. And you liberals are too weak to tell me what to do. I want to put a hole through a bucky there, I'll do it. I don't care about no goddamn rules for the hunting season. I'll go out at midnight and do it when everybody's sleeping. If it makes a loud noise, fuck 'em. Another example. I like driving like I want. I do as I please. I'm friends with people from the local police. I go over the speed limit a bit. I don't give a shit. I got one of those stickers that I support my local police. I drive like I want. I ain't getting no ticket, but you are. And you think you understand shit. I gets what I want. Yeah. You guys have to understand it's survival of the fittest, and you just ain't fit. And that's why we win all the time. And we will always win. Because you are too goddamn weak.